Welcome to Better Credit, Better Home, your source for the latest local and national news that can impact you if you are in the market for real estate. Here are your hosts, the Kingwood mortgage guy, Mike Durr, who uses his 25 years as a mortgage professional to help people improve their credit, and Joe Salas, an accomplished home inspector, real estate agent, and trainer of new agents for Byrd Property International. Together, they will help you understand what you need to know to get the most out of your real estate investment. Let's get started.
Let's get started.
Let's do it, my man.
So, Joe, it's always good to see you after I've missed a little bit. And anyway, got Sandy all situated. We went back to the doctor today and got her kind of checked for the surgery. And she walked in there kind of sassy. I don't know. I shouldn't say it. She might watch this one of these days. She was dignified as she walked in there. But no, she amazing how quickly they heal these days when you do a hip replacement. So anyway, it's kind of cool.
That's crazy. Well, it's good to hear that she's doing well, man.
Yeah. And so I've got a bit of news. We're going to do this news thing. Then I'm going to do my humor. I think that you'll like the humor today. And actually what I think we're going to do, as opposed to me taking the full brunt and pain of picking out the humor, is I'm going to have people, if you're watching out there, you get to vote on which one was funny or if neither were funny. But if one should be funnier than the other, then I'd like to hear about it. Okay. But first, here's a little bit of information. So today, stocks are moving higher. Mortgage bonds were a bit lower today. When bonds are lower, that's bad for interest rates. We want bonds to be higher. The Fed also kicks off their two-day meeting with their statement and press conference tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Joe just told me some big news. I didn't know this.
Hey, don't quote me.
There's a chance, based on Joe, that they might even cut the interest rate by 50 basis points. That is news to me. If that's the case, it's going to be a glorious day.
Please, baby Jesus.
That's right. Existing home sales, which measures the closings on existing homes, showed that sales were up almost 15% in February. That's a good news for just about everybody. The year-over-year basis, sales are down 22%, but they were predicting it was going to be down 37%. So they're showing some life. Inventory levels remain very low at 980,000. This is nationally, but we're up 15% year over year. The media made a huge deal out of this, but when looking at some of the perspective, they're up 15% from a record low inventory of 850 from last year. So inventory is low, but it's better than it was last year at this time. It says here there's a 2.6% supply of homes, which is tight because the normal is 4.6 months is considered a normal amount. But if you look at active listings, there are only 578,000 active listings. Now, the reason there's a difference in that number is the active listings, the ones that are pending or pending continue to show, those are count in the full number that I gave you just a minute ago. So when you look at the month supply of available homes, it's actually only 1.5 months of inventory, which is extremely low. I'm going to skip down a little bit. Let's see. Actual appreciation is up 8.4% year over year, according to FHFA, and 5.8% according to Case-Shiller. So that's an increase in appreciation where people were saying that the housing was crashing. So that's pretty solid evidence that that homes are not going to crash. And with that kind of inventory, there's no way it does.
Yeah. They're not increasing as much as they used to, but they're still increasing a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's some interesting news for sellers. Homes remain on the market on average 34 days, with 57% of homes on the market less than 30 days. If the home is priced right, it sells. Here's other thing. First-time home buyers have accounted for 27% of the sales, which was down from 31% in the last report. Cash buyers accounted for 28% of sales, which is down from 29%, and investors made up 18% of transactions. That's up from 16%. That made up roughly 1 out of every 5 transactions were investors. Investors are seeing the opportunity in housing right now. Multiple offers and purchases above asking price picked up. And it seems investors see that rates are going to come down. And with the tight inventory environment, they expect a good return as appreciation will start picking up when activity returns. So anyway, that's as much as we're going to talk about there. I thought it was good information. I think it kind of validates what we've said previously in here, that when rates come down, that we're going to see multiple offers, and we're going to see a frenzy because there's not enough houses out there, and that's what it's about.
The market's picking up right now too.
Yeah.
There's a feel in the air, right?
Well, I can tell you, and I hope you're right about this introduction, but rates have stubbornly stood up. I mean, even though that we've had big moves on the market, I mean, the market would normally bump around 15 to 20 basis points. Well, it's been going 50 and 75 basis points every day. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. And so the people that are looking at the rates are very modest in the reductions, and they're very quick to raise rates. So it's been annoying and frustrating for me because I've been talking about rates getting better and better and better, and they just not seeming to get as good as I want them to. But anyway, let's do our thing. We're doing first-time home buyers again today because that's a substantial part of the market out there. We could do another one on investors. I love talking about that kind of stuff, but today it's first-time home buyers. And this says the top 10 questions. Well, I got the 10, but there were still a couple that I left out. So we may have more than 10, but you tell me. Oh, no, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Hold on a second. Let me take that out of here. We're going to shift. We got to do our humor thing. Let's see how I can do this here real quick. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if it's going to work here. Let's see, share. Window. There we go. Okay. This one. All right. What do you see, Joe? Did it share?
Nothing.
Ha. Okay.
Oh, I see you and me.
Well, I don't want to share.
We're something. We're not nothing.
Well, that's not what I want to share. All right. I'm going to try one more time, and then I'll give it up. Let's see. Present. Present. It's funny to me trying to pull this off is what's funny. Share screen. Share screen. Entire screen. Let me try this. Oh, okay, let's try this. Oh, wait.
There you go. There you go.
All right.
I've seen this before.
You've seen this before. Well, for those of you at home, the listing photos is the first one, and then the home inspection. She's got a nice stash for a young lady, doesn't she? Let's see. And then I got one more. If I can put this up. There we go. This is the emotional support dog after one day in real estate with me. And he got his shades on, got his cigarette, and got his glass of wine. What a guy.
Yeah, those are both funny because they're true.
That's right.
For sure.
Okay. All right. Back here. And I'm going to open this up a little bigger for me. There we go. Top 10 questions first-time home buyers should ask. So this is what you should be asking. So you might want to write these down or just watch this again and take them down. So gave you the daily update. How much mortgage can I afford? That's a question you need to ask. What do I need to qualify for a home loan? What credit profile or scores do I need? Should I get a fixed or adjustable rate? What is PMI? Private mortgage insurance. How much should I put down? What are mortgage points or discount points? What is a pre-approval versus a pre-qualification? And when will I get the keys to the new home? And actually, there's a couple others in there that you'll see, and I think you'll appreciate them too. So how much mortgage can I qualify for? Joe, what's the answer to that one?
As much as you tell me I can qualify for.
There's something that a lot of people don't know about is they'll say, and on our letters, we write this. We write that you're available. You can buy a $350,000 house. And it's a lie. What you can do is you can buy a payment. There's a certain payment that comes, and you can actually go $1 higher and you don't qualify, or $1 less and you do qualify. And it's the amount of the payment that we put in here when we're maxing. And not everybody wants to max that, and that's probably a good thing. But when we put in there 375,000, I will usually, and I need to do this more often, put in the letter or in the email where I send the letter is they qualify for a $2,475 a month payment. And the reason you have to do that is because we don't know what the taxes or the insurance is going to be. And so when we do that, it comes down to the debt ratio. Each of the investors, whether it be conventional or FHA or USDA or VA, they all have a number that they don't like to go above. VA's probably got the most flexibility of all of them. But bottom line is they use multiple factors, but the key thing is the debt ratio, and that is the recurring monthly debt divided by the gross monthly income. You just do a little math. It's real easy to figure out. And on a conventional deal, you want to hang if you're below 45, and 9 times out of 10, you'll qualify. If you go above 45, but you stay below 49 or right at 49, and you have some reserves, you'll qualify with that also. It's kind of interesting how they do that. So debt to income back ratio, there's 2 ratios. The back ratio is the one I just gave you. The front ratio, they measure your gross income divided by what the mortgage payment is going to be. So the second ratio, did I say that right? That back ratio is all your debt and the mortgage. The front ratio is just your mortgage against your gross income. Now, when I say gross income, people get confused by that. You know what I'm talking about, right? If you have taxes, if you're like a wage earner or a W-2 employee, we base the mortgage on the full amount of your paycheck, and we count the fact that you pay the taxes. So that gives you more income. It's not what you bring home, it's what you totally make. A lot of people would ask that too. So any questions on that? I guess not. We'll move on. So what do I need to do to qualify for a home loan? Lenders consider the employment history. It's a big one. How much money you will put down. It's a factor. Lenders look for job stability. Lenders will look at your credit scores and your credit profile, and lenders want your debt to be manageable. And just because you think you can manage it and you're making all your payments, they have their own consideration on what's manageable and what's not, and that's based on those ratios we just talked about.
Let's say somebody gets a new job, Mike.
Yes.
And then they coming up on a lease ending, but they've only been at the new job for about, let's say, 6 months. Is that enough history for them to qualify for a loan?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the job thing is kind of interesting, but what they want to see is they want stability in your income, right? So if you've gone from one job to another and you've been at this new job for 30 days, as long as that other previous work is consistent, some kind of consistency with it to the new job, and you're making more money, they'll give you credit in the first month. Matter of fact, it may even better than that. You may not have even started that job, but you have an offer letter that's non-contingent offer letter. Then you can go to work before you start your new job and get the benefits of that, whatever's in the letter that they send you.
Right.
And it's non-contingent. When you say non-contingent, that usually boils down to some kind of drug test or something that, they don't find out something that you're like a terrorist or something like that. So usually those go through. Now, here's another good one on that same basis. You got a kid that's just out of college and he's going to look for his job and he wants to buy a house, or maybe he's got a job. And what they're going to do is the one thing that's sacrosanct is we want to see that you've had 2 years of work history. Well, a college kid just got out of college. He doesn't have 2 years of work history.
Yeah.
But they will allow him and get copies of his transcript showing that he was working towards his degree for 2 years. So you can come right out of college and buy a house if you want to.
Awesome.
Here's one of the catches, that if for some reason you have longer than a 6-month gap, then you've got to be back working at least 6 months. So that's one of those deals where it snagged me one time too. So I'm very sensitive to that. But anyway, those are great questions. And I'm sure, first time home buyers would ask that kind of stuff. So this will be good information. So what credit scores are required? Well, what I did on this one is I basically looked at each of the different loan types and put out a minimum score that they put out. And on conventional, the minimum score is 620. And what happens is, the other thing I'll tell you, if you're at these scores, you're not going to get great rates. I mean, particularly right now, the rates are brutal. FHA, you can do a 550, but it's tough. Matter of fact, 580 is pretty tough. Preferably, you want to be above 600. On the 580, you can still put 3.5% down at the 580 FICO score. If you go below that, you have to put 10% down. So they'll do 10% down to 550. And Joe, I've been doing this 26 years, and I've never done anything below 580.
On the VA.
Yeah. No, on FHA.
On FHA. Yeah.
And we've tried a couple times, but it's just everything has to be perfectly aligned to do that. Now, USDA, I'm putting the 640 on there. That's what most of the lenders are. There are some lenders that will actually do a USDA at 620, maybe even some lower. The USDA is a really good loan. If the FHA
awesome.
is a good loan, USDA is awesome.
Yeah.
VA, another good loan. I mean, they don't state a specific FICO score, but again, 550, you get a 550 FICO score, you earned it. That score looks bad. All right. And you can also put 0 down on a VA loan. So they're taking care of the vets and the guys that served our country. Some of you guys might not know what non-QM is. Non-QM really is the entity that kind of took over subprime mortgages, but it's not really, because you got to have a pretty decent FICO score to do a non-QM loan. These are primarily self-employed people's loans where they do the income with bank statements. And there's a few other quirky things, but they play a part in, and I've done enough of these to know and respect these. And, sometimes you have to just do it. You have to do it that way because you don't have the income taxes to do it. Jumbos, we love jumbos. Jumbo is very strict, more strict than the conventional. Minimum FICO is 700. I say that. I mean, there's lenders out there that might do them less than that, but that's general rule. And of course, you can expect the loan to value is lower. In other words, you have to, I think, probably can't do less than 10% down. And then the debt ratios are a little tight also. And then the one question we didn't ask before is, can you improve your credit scores? Well, yeah, you can improve your credit scores quickly if you know what to do. And you've got to be dealing with somebody that knows how that stuff works. And we've had a lot of experience helping people bump their scores up to 40 points in a couple weeks. So
that's awesome.
Be sure you ask that question.
Question, Mike, because this may not be a common question, but have you ever encountered someone that had a fairly good credit score but didn't qualify for a loan?
Well, yeah, sure. Here's an example of one right off the top. Somebody that's had a foreclosure. Somebody that's had a recent bankruptcy. Those are people that can have good credit scores and they've aligned themselves to what they need to do. They just haven't gone through the waiting period.
Yeah.
The other thing, there are people that out there that have good credit scores, but that can't prove their income. Now, I had a kind of an unusual one recently where the guy had income, but it was in cash. Well, and his credit score was good. He didn't put his income on his tax returns, and he didn't put his money in the bank. And I dude, you're killing me.
Yeah, not getting a mortgage is probably the least of his concerns, if my opinion.
I won't tell you the nationality of this guy, but I mean, he didn't trust the banks. There's a lot of people that don't trust the banks, and he's probably smarter than all of us. I don't know.
True, right? Have you ever encountered somebody that had too much debt to income but a good credit score and didn't qualify?
Yeah. We see that a lot. There are people out there that handle a lot of debt, and it's rare. I will tell you, it is rare when somebody has a lot of debt, because anytime you have your credit card's maxed out, that's a negative for your credit
Yeah.
score. So that's probably a little bit more of a rarity. But I talked to a gal today. She was hard to communicate with, but she told me that she had 800 FICO scores. She told me that she had wage earner income and that she didn't have much debt. And I told her, I said, you're going to be able to get some kind of loan. I mean, she didn't have a lot of income, and whether she's going to be able to find a $150,000 house or not, I don't know. But those are the ingredients where you're going to be able to qualify for something.
Very good.
Yeah. But I love to talk about this. So these are kind of silly questions. I get these a lot of times. I'll go on the internet and I'll put in something to the tune of, what are questions that first-time homebuyers ask, right? And should I get a fixed rate or an adjustable rate? Well, it's not as easy as just saying you should always get a fixed rate. There are times when you would think that an adjustable rate might be a better loan if, an example, is you knew that you were going to be in this area for 3 years. Maybe your company that you work for moves you every 3 years. Maybe you're in the military and you're going to get stationed somewhere else. Other than that, the interest rates for adjustables are generally a little bit less than. Unfortunately, they're not as low as I'd like them to be. For me, there's just not a lot of incentive to do an adjustable rate mortgage because the risk reward just doesn't seem to meet my criteria. But some people want to do them. And adjustable rate mortgages do adjust up and down. So if rates did go down, they're likely to go below the interest rate that you started with. That could happen. So that's something to be aware of. But I'm not a big fan of them. And the everything that I've seen over the last 26 years, people don't get in trouble as often with a fixed rate mortgage as they do with an adjustable rate. So here's one that says borrower assumes risk of interest rate increases with adjustable rates. Well, yeah, you have to know that going in. What is private mortgage insurance, or what is private mortgage insurance? I like to explain. Joe, do you think private mortgage insurance is a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a good thing for the banks.
I think it's a total good thing all around. Let me explain why. So there was a day in the mortgage industry where you couldn't buy a house unless you put 20% down. And some genius, I wish it was me, I wish I'd thought of this, came up and says, well, what if we just insured for the bank up to between 80% and 100, right? So that's all that the mortgage insurance does, is it insures to the bank the difference. Actually, I think 78% and whatever the down payment they put, whether it's 3% or 5% or whatever the number is. And the borrower gets to pay it. Well, everybody screams, I don't want to pay mortgage. Well, you don't want to, but you also don't want to put 20% down all the time.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
There are a lot more home buyers out there, and that's why I'm very glad there are a lot of them out there that bought a home with less than 20% down. If you didn't have something like private mortgage insurance, you wouldn't have that. And I like this example over here. It just gives you a pretty good indication. So the first one talks about a $10,000 down payment on a $200,000 house. So the loan is $190, and then compares it to somebody that put 20% down. And so they put $40,000 down. The mortgage was $160 versus $190, both 30-year rates. The truth is, sometimes, now this will blow you away, sometimes the interest rate is lower on the 5% down than it is on the 20% down. Don't ask me why. It makes no sense to me. I've seen it though. But in this case, they both have the same rate. The mortgage payment, obviously, since you're borrowing less money over here, the mortgage rate's going to be less. The 918 is basically just a number, but the private mortgage insurance is the $104.50. So that adds that much more to your mortgage payment, but that allows you to keep $30,000 in your pocket. So I think that that's a fair trade-off. Now, the amount of mortgage insurance that you pay, this is obviously somebody that had good credit. If you have a lower FICO, let's say that you're in the mid to upper 600s, the mortgage insurance is more expensive because they're measuring that. It's a risk-related insurance. But again, I think it's a good thing. Now, if you can avoid paying it, heck yeah. The other thing I want to add to that is the way that homes have appreciated these last couple of years. You can gain 20% in a year. I mean, the last 2 years, 2021 or 21 and 22, homes appreciated 20% in a year. It's crazy. So you'd have been paying the mortgage insurance for 1 year.
And talk us through that, Mike, because I know there's some new home buyers, and I know we're kind of running short on time. But if the value of the loan is less than 20% of, or sorry, less than 80% of the total appraised value of the house, then they no longer have to pay mortgage insurance. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, there's a specific strategy that you use to reduce that. And it's real simple. You just call the lender and say, look, I think my house value has gone up.
Yeah.
My note is here, and I think I deserved. And the mortgage company 9 times out of 10 will say, get an appraisal. Tim, you hear that? They want.
Where's Tim? Tim, hey.
Get an appraisal and come see us after you get the appraisal. And if it's that 20% there, you'll get to remove the mortgage insurance. Or better than that is just call me and I'll walk you through that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a cool way to do it. And that's the other reason I've been touting this whole thing about mortgage insurance, because it's just not going to last very long unless it's an FHA. FHA lasts for the length of loan. So that's the negative for the FHA.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Used to it had to be on there 5 years, but now it's got a life of loan.
Yeah, mine disappeared. We had FHA and mine disappeared, so I guess we got it before the change.
Yeah, you probably did. Good for you. All right, the next one is how much should I put down? Well, we talked a little bit about that just then, but conventional, these are the minimum allowances. Conventional, you can put, as a first-time home buyer, you can put 3% down. If you're a second-time buyer, the minimum is 5%. FHA is 3.5%. USDA is 0. We love 0. VA is 0. Non-QM usually is going to be 10 or 15%, and the jumbos minimum that I've seen are 10%. So that's a quickie. We'll get through that. Now, these are mortgage points, and I don't know if anybody can see this or not. Can you make it out?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to go zoom in on the slides you sent me earlier.
The mortgage points are discount points. This is a pricing sheet from another time, so don't get too excited about the 5.875. But it could again. But you see the rate on the left side, and then it tells you what the APR would be. It tells you the price, and you see that there's a demarcation line that I put in there, and the red means that's a cost. The green means that is a bonus. All right. So what I mean by that is the 5.875 cost about 1/4 point. Okay, that's 7.26. It's not quite it. It'd be a little less than it. Or if you did the 5.99, you would get 0.334 towards your closing cost. That's the way our pricing is. So if you look at it and you said, well, I want to get a 5.5% mortgage payment. Well, you can see that would cost you about 1.25 discount points to buy down to get the 5.5% interest rate. Now, there's very few mortgage people that'll show you this, but this is what we look at and how we price loans all the time. It tells you the lender fees, it tells you what the principal and interest is, and of course the total payment if there is mortgage insurance. And in this case, I think there was mortgage insurance because there's a difference there. But one of the things I'll share with you is one of the ways you figure out if it makes sense to buy points, right? So if you look at this, the 5.99 to 5.875, there's $30 difference in the 5.99 between the 5.875. 5.875 is $30 less principal and interest than the 5.875. Or do you see what I'm talking about? 5.99 is $30 more than the 5.875 as far as the payment. So what you have to do is you're going to make that payment 12 times a year. So that's $360 that you would save. And you would measure that against how much you're paying for the discounts. And you would divide it in there. And you're going to get a number that is in the number of months that you're going to be paying for that. And you go, okay, well, if I'm going to buy this thing down, then how many months is it going to take me to get my money back?
Yeah.
So it's simple math. And, if you're going to be there 6 or 7 years, it usually makes sense to. Is that vodka, Joe? Are you drinking vodka? It was like a case there. Yeah.
It would be a different call, Mike. No, it's just water, my man.
Okay, all right. I just want just check it. All right. So anyway, if you didn't get that, call me back, and I'll describe this again about discount points. Is the discount points to me are neutral. If you want to do it, great. If you're going to be in the house a long time, it's a good idea. If you're, and let me tell you, discount points are amazing if you can get the seller to pay for them. That's really all good. So anyway, that's a big help. All right. Are there any special programs out there? Yeah, we've got special programs for first-time home buyers, particularly. I'm not going to go over them right now. I'm not in love with all of them. Some are better than others, and I'll go over that with you when you want to know, when we hear from you. What are the costs beyond the down payment? Well, there are costs, and they're not all lender fees. They're third-party fees. They're title company fees. They're prepaid interest. There's tax and insurance escrows. This should not scare you away. Now, what should scare you is when somebody charges you discount points and they don't tell you about it. That's the only time that I would be nervous about that. And again, we disclose closing costs right up front anytime we do a loan, so be aware of that. So what is the role of the realtor? Joe, what is the role of the realtor? Why do we need the realtors?
In short, Mike, we're going to give you as much information as we have and allow you to make your own decisions. That's basic thing that we do, is to protect you throughout the transaction with our knowledge and our experience. There's things like you have listed here. That's all part and parcel to what we do. But at the end of the day, we are the ones that help provide the information, write the contracts. But at the end of the day, like I said, it's going to be the buyer's decision or the seller's decision how they make their own decisions based on the information we give them. So it's a great job. Yeah, it's a great job.
I like the last one. They don't pay you anything.
Yeah. For the most part, that is true. There are special situations where a buyer may be responsible for some of the commissions, but most of the time, I would say that's true.
It's rare. Yeah. And there's no sense in not having an advocate out there to help you not only find homes and find the right home. It's a big deal. All right. And then, is a home inspection necessary? Well, no, they're not. They're not required, but are they necessary? Oh yeah. Joe's one of the top home inspectors out there, not only being a realtor, and that's why I like the mustache thing in the front. So, but go ahead and go over this one too. It's a perfect deal.
Again, the whole purpose of an inspection, in my opinion, especially for a buyer, if we're talking first-time home buyers, is it's a information gathering tool for you as the buyer, right? And an inspector's job is to describe to you the general condition of the house based on the standards of practice that we have from the state. We look at things like the structural systems, which includes slab or the foundation, walls, windows, roof coverings, roof structures. We're inside looking at walls, windows, doors, floors, electrical systems, including all the fixtures and wiring, plumbing systems, including drains and sinks and fixtures and toilets, water heater, AC system, heating systems. It's a rather comprehensive inspection based on the standards of practice that we have, that all inspectors have. And again, it is a information gathering tool for you as the buyer to make an informed decision on whether or not to proceed with the purchase of the house based on concessions and negotiations that you may enter into after inspections during option. So that's the value of it.
So some people think that this is an expense, and some people pass on it because of that, but they're looking at it all wrong. It is an investment, and the return on investment, there's probably not a better return on investment in the whole home buying thing as getting the inspection.
Absolutely agree.
And I'll go both ways on that. It's not like Joe's inspecting a home of mine that I'm selling tomorrow just because I want to make sure that everything I can do to make that house as nice as possible is done.
Yep.
And we don't get surprised by somebody else's home inspector, which we may, but I'm very doubtful. And this is part of the insurance, I believe, that is makes sense. I believe the return on investment is going to be good. So get an inspection. How long does closing take? Well, I couldn't resist keeping this one in there. This is me holding my trophy for being purchase business speed to close in recognition of your industry leading closing times. We like to close fast. So that you can get in there fast. Just ask me. This is what rates were today. I don't know how they ended up. I took this about 2 o'clock. 6.625 on the 30 fixed, 6% on the 15-year. FHA was 6.25. Not as good as I'd like them to be. I'd like to get them back down in the 5s. That's where I think we're heading. And I think that is it, Joe. We went over a little bit today, but I think it was good information.
Good stuff, man. We had some good conversation today.
Yep. I appreciate you, and I appreciate all the people that are watching this or get to watch it. And listen, don't hesitate to call Joe or myself. We'd love to chat with you. Again, Joe, if you have a house that you want to find out what the cost or what you can sell it for, he's the guy. So other than that, listen, again, thanks, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay.
I'll see you tomorrow, Mike.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
Bye.